welcome back to another weekly wrap-up video. Actually, the last one for a couple weeks as the General Assembly is getting ready to head on its 2-week Easter break. My name's Matt Revel. I'm the Director of Policy and Communications for the Senate Republican Caucus. And I have here today Senator Brian Pettyjohn. Sir, how are you?
I'm doing great, Matt.
Well, as I said, first of all, happy Easter.
Yes, happy Easter, everybody.
Depends on when you're watching this. We're coming up on a Easter holiday this coming Sunday, but
depends on when you get it done, when this is going to hit the airwaves.
Right, hopefully before, but anyway.
But either happy Easter or we hope that you had a happy Easter.
Right.
Yeah.
But like always, a couple important topics that we do want to touch on with the legislature and what's going on in the community. And one of the community-based events that you hosted this past Tuesday, was a webinar about the state's broadband internet expansion.
Yeah.
Why don't you kind of give us a little recap of that?
I mean, Matt, that was a great webinar that we had. It was myself. I was joined by Chris Cohen, Chris Cohen from DTI, and then Jason Clark, the CIO, Chief Information Officer of DTI, the Department of Technology and Information. And the purpose of it was to talk about this big announcement that was made, weeks ago about the, over $100 million worth of investment in broadband here in Delaware. The goal is to have every address in Delaware, whether it's a business, whether it's residential, have access to wired internet in the next 36 months, within the next 3 years, be completely done. We're not talking about the fixed-based wireless that was being pushed a lot with some of the COVID money during COVID and to help students in schools. This will be wired access to somebody's house. So whether it's a cable line, whether it's a fiber optic line, Comcast is doing some fiber optic to the home. Verizon Fios is of course a fiber optic based. There's Atlantic Broadband, which is on the kind of the Middletown area, I believe. But these providers will be doing, wired internet access, high-speed broadband access to every single address here in Delaware, which is, it's a huge deal.
And like you said, that's something that we've been hoping for a long time. Yeah. Closing that last mile, right?
I was interviewed by the News Journal back before I was even in public service about the issues my father was having at his farm. Now, of course, with the farm, he had a school bus business. Internet access, even for somebody like that, that wasn't like a big brick and mortar type thing, was huge then. To run payroll, to do all sorts of things that had to deal with his business, he needed internet access. And what they ended up having to do, they had a laptop. They couldn't have a desktop. They had to have a laptop so they could go somewhere and go onto a hotspot, whether it was our house on the Circle in Georgetown, but to download the updates for the tax tables and all those things, they needed internet access. And at the time, Verizon was asking like $30,000 to run it about a quarter mile to their house. So, they eventually did, end up, paying a significant amount of money because they had to do it. But this will provide, it'll be internet access really to the person's house. It'll go right up to the side of the house. People won't have to pay the thousands of dollars, even if they have a half a mile long driveway. Between the agreement with Comcast or the providers and the state, it'll be right up there. So, none of that big installation fee that a lot of people have been worried about and haven't been able to get internet access because of that.
Yeah, and just really quickly though, like internet access, like reliable internet access this day and age is actually more of a necessity than it was in here, because
even if you have one of these little home-based businesses, all your business license stuff, to get your business license, you've got to go onto the state's portal. So internet access is required now to do a lot of things. And whether it's a business, whether it's education, whether it's medicine, more and more of our everyday life is connected to the internet. It requires internet access wherever we are, and especially in our homes and businesses. So this is a big deal. Delaware will be the first state to have universal broadband access to every single address in our state. And that's an advantage of us being so small as well. One of the things we'll do, we'll be sure to put a link here at the end of this video or in the comments so people can make sure they can check what the status is, make sure their address gets in the system, that they get on the list that, hey, we want it, and so they can follow all the updates with DTI as to what's going on with this. It is a very important project, and it's something that a lot of people have been asking for, and a lot of us have been working on for over a decade.
Yeah, so we'll be sure to keep everyone updated on that. But shifting to the legislature.
Yes.
So there was a pretty big bill, especially this Thursday, that was heard in the Senate, Senate Bill 90. Why don't you kind of describe what that bill does?
Yeah, I mean, it looks pretty innocuous. It's just deleting 2 sections of Delaware code. And normally, we're all about reducing what's in Delaware code. But what this specifically does, currently there's a provision in Delaware code that says that a landlord, somebody who's renting a house or an apartment or whatever to somebody, they do not have to accept vouchers or public assistance vouchers for somebody that is looking to rent space from them, a room, an apartment, a house, whatever. This removes that. So, we were arguing on the floor that this is now a mandate, that people who rent, whether it's somebody who's renting a house, they have a parent's or a relative's house that, they're renting out, they passed away or, whatever, that they're renting out, or an apartment complex, they now have to accept public vouchers. There's no out for them now. If somebody comes to them, they meet the criteria, they run the credit check, they run the background check, everything is coming through okay, and then this person says, I've got a voucher from the state, they can't say, no, we don't accept those vouchers. They have to accept that. So that landlord has to enroll and have the inspections and have all these things done by the state in order to have that tenant come in, and they're required to. They're required to accept those vouchers now, even if they don't want to, even if they don't want the administrative headache of being part of a program. They're forced to go into that government program now.
Well, so no doubt, this piece of legislation has the best of intentions behind it. And
it does.
And Senator Bonini and other members of our caucus noted this on the floor. Like, look, we want to increase the amount of affordable, accessible housing throughout the state, just Senator Bonini. And like I said, others noted, why don't we look at incentivizing landlords to do this rather than requiring them to, or as we were saying, mandating.
Mandate, yeah.
Right.
And it's very true. Affordable housing is a huge problem right now, not just in Delaware. It is a nationwide problem that a lot of large groups are trying to address right now, whether it's National Association of Realtors, a lot of the associations that deal with affordable housing, they're all coming to the same conclusion, and that is affordable housing is becoming less and less available in the United States. And one of our concerns is that people that are renting a house or have 2 houses that they rent are going to see this and say, you know what, it's just not worth it anymore. Get out of the rental market and put that house up for sale. And that will be additional units that will be out of circulation for renters who can't buy a house but can afford a rent. That'll be less inventory for them to be able to rent. So that is a concern. But like you said, affordable housing, it is key. And we need to look at more solutions that will bring more units available into the market rather than be a disincentive for people to enter the rental market and have their property available for rent.
Well, this is another piece of legislation. We'll be sure to keep you updated along the way. It still has to go to the House, so who knows, there may be an amendment there or whatever, but either way, has to go through the House. Governor has to sign it, so there's a little bit of time before it goes into effect. Real quickly, though, another piece of legislation that's been in the news, and we don't necessarily have to go into too deep a detail because I think it's pretty straightforward, is House Bill 360. That's the $300 rebate relief check. Very quickly, it passed the House earlier this week. It passed the Senate on Thursday. So today, as of this recording, and I believe the governor's actually going to be signing it.
Yeah, he's prepared to sign it today, right away. So, again, it's been in the news. It's a $300 check. The first round of checks are going to be people that filed a tax return for tax year 2020.
Yes.
Anybody that filed that tax return, they're going to be in the first batch that goes out, and they're expecting that in the May timeframe. The next batch, and that's going to take a little bit longer to figure out because Division of Revenue, who issues the checks, don't necessarily have records on some of these other individuals, are people that are otherwise eligible for it, other adults that are eligible for it, but don't file taxes. And there are people in Delaware that don't file taxes. If your income is low enough, if you're on some of the disabilities, Social Security, that your income doesn't rise to a certain level, you're not necessarily required to file a tax return in Delaware. So the hope is between records from the Division of Motor Vehicle, Department of Health and Social Services, Unemployment Office, all of those other areas to identify the rest of the people who are eligible for it but didn't necessarily file that 2020 tax return, to get them. And then the last piece is going to be standing up a web portal, so that if you didn't fall in those two categories, you put your information in, and of course we'll have to verify that you are eligible for it, and then issue a check. The hope is with all of these other groups, probably going to be 5,000 or so people that are missed, and they're going to have to submit the information. Now, if that number comes back to 40,000 or 50,000 or 80,000, well, that's definitely a sign that there are individuals that are trying to defraud the system, and we're going to have to take a look at that and go through those, on a case-by-case basis. But we're hoping that, by and large, we're going to be able to capture the individuals that are eligible for it through those other means first.
And real quickly, is this taxable? Like, is it tax-free?
It is tax-free for Delaware taxes, but because it is a state refund, it is taxable on your federal taxes. So, yes.
Then last question, because I know it's another one that we've gotten. Mm-hmm. So for example, if a husband and wife, they file jointly, mm-hmm. will they get one $300 check, or will it be $300 per
adult.
person?
It's per adult.
Well, with all that said, Senator, again, thank you.
Yep.
Be sure to check us out on DelawareSenate.com. All of our social media links will be kind of after this video once we get done at the end. Be sure to sign up with Senator Pettyjohn mm-hmm. and everyone else's newsletter. Those links will be in the YouTube description below. But like I said at the beginning of this video, Happy Easter.
Happy Easter, yeah.
And thank you for watching.
All right, take care.